The room was cold and quiet. 7 tall aliens sat around a round table. They all looked at Admiral Drell with wide eyes. Admiral Drell was from the Valkyrian Empire. He was tall with blue skin and 4 arms. He stood proud as he spoke to the Galactic Council. "The humans are weak," said Admiral Drell. "Their ships are few. Their weapons are old. We will take their worlds in 1 month." An old alien with gray skin and 3 eyes raised his hand. His name was Elder Zorn from the peaceful Trelawney race. "Admiral, there is a rule. It is the oldest rule we have. Never start a war with humans. The last race who fought them no longer exists." Admiral Drell laughed. "Old stories to scare children. We have studied the humans for 20 years. They have not fought a war in space for over 100 years. Their ships are for science and trade, not battle." Elder Zorn shook his head. "The warning in our oldest books is clear. The humans do not show their true power. They hide it. When they fight, they change. They become something else." "My Emperor has decided," said Admiral Drell. "We need the resources on the human colonies. We will take them." Elder Zorn stood up. "Then we cannot help you, and we will not stop them when they come for you." The other members of the council all looked down. No one spoke as Admiral Drell left the room. 2 days later, Jack Miller woke up to a loud alarm on his ship, the Northern Star. Jack was the captain. He was 45 years old with short brown hair and a scar on his chin from a farming accident when he was young. Before he could get dressed, his first officer, Susan Lewis, called him. "Captain, you need to come to the bridge now," she said. Her voice was steady but tight. Jack ran to the bridge in his sleep clothes. Susan was looking at the main screen. She was 38, with red hair always kept in a tight bun. Her face was serious as she pointed to the screen. "Sir, long-range sensors show ships coming toward our outer colonies. Lots of ships. They're not answering our calls." Jack sat in his chair and looked at the data. "How many?" 200 big ships. Maybe more behind them. They're moving fast." Jack pressed a button on his chair. "This is Captain Miller. All crew to battle stations. This is not a drill." The crew looked shocked. The Northern Star was a diplomatic ship. It had some weapons, but it wasn't made for war. Most of the 50 people on board were diplomats and scientists. "Send a message to Earth Central Command," said Jack. "Tell them we have unknown ships approaching Neptune's moon Triton. They look ready for war." Susan sent the message. "Sir, should we run?" Jack shook his head. "No, we stay. The colony on Triton has 400 people. Scientists and miners. No defenses. We're the only ship close enough to help." On Earth, General Alan Wright was eating dinner when the message came. He was 60 with gray hair and a face that looked like it was carved from stone. He read the message twice, then pressed a red button that no one had pressed in 100 years. Alarms rang in every government building on Earth. Within 1 hour, 500 important people from all Earth nations joined a video call. "General," Wright looked at their worried faces. "We have a code red. Unknown ships are approaching Neptune. Captain Miller of the Northern Star reports they look hostile. We need to vote now on sending our defense fleet." The vote was quick. Everyone said, "Yes." General Wright sent a message to the Northern Star. "Captain Miller, help is coming. Follow the first contact rules. Warn them once. If they don't stop, protect our people." Back on the Northern Star, Jack got the message. "Susan, send this to the unknown ships. This is Captain Jack Miller of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. You are entering human space. Please stop and identify yourselves." The alien ships didn't slow down. Instead, they sent back a message. It showed Admiral Drell. "Humans, I am Admiral Drell of the Valkyrian Empire. Your worlds will soon belong to us. Surrender now, and you may live as our workers." Jack felt cold. "Send this message, Admiral Drell. We don't want war. Please turn around. If you attack us, Earth will defend itself." Admiral Drell laughed at the message. He turned to his second-in-command, an officer named Krell. "See how they beg? Their ship is tiny. Let's show them what happens to those who don't bow to the Valkyrian Empire." "Sir," "The Council's warning," said Krell. "The Council is old and scared," said Admiral Drell. "Fire on their colony on that moon, not the ship yet. Let them watch their people die first." On the Northern Star, Jack and his crew watched in horror as Valkyrian ships fired on the small colony on Triton. The science base exploded. All 38 people there died in seconds. "They killed them all," whispered Susan. "They didn't even warn them." Jack's hands gripped his chair tightly. "Send a message to Earth. The Valkyrians have destroyed Triton. Colony. All hands lost. They've declared war." As the message traveled to Earth, Jack turned to his crew. "Get all diplomats and non-essential crew to the escape pods. Susan, charge all weapons. We won't run. But we'll make sure Earth knows exactly what these Valkyrians look like and how their ships work." On Earth, General Wright received the message about Triton. His face showed no emotion as he pressed another button. This one hadn't been pressed in even longer. Deep under the surface of Mars, huge doors opened in secret bases. Lights came on in massive rooms where thousands of ships sat, waiting. On Europa, weapon systems that looked like ice research stations began to power up. All across Earth, millions of people got messages on their phones. The messages were simple: report for duty. The humans had been preparing for this day for a very long time. On the Valkyrian command ship, Admiral Drell laughed as he watched the Northern Star try to fight back. "These humans are nothing. Their defeat will be quick." Officer Krell looked worried. "Sir, we're getting strange readings from Mars and several moons. Energy levels are rising." "Probably trying to call for help," said Admiral Drell. "Nobody can help them now." Neither Valkyrian noticed that all other alien ships in the solar system were leaving as fast as they could. They knew what was coming. The ancient rule was about to be demonstrated again. General Alan Wright stood in a large room deep under the Rocky Mountains. 50 men and women sat at tables around him. They were the leaders of Earth's Unified Defense Council. All of them wore serious faces. No one spoke as videos of the destroyed Triton colony played on the big screens. "The Valkyrians have killed 38 of our people," said General Wright. His voice was calm, but his eyes were hard. "Captain Miller and the Northern Star managed to send us all the data on their ships before they were destroyed. Now we must respond." A woman with short gray hair stood up. Her name was Patricia Garcia, the president of the North American Alliance. "It's time to activate the Sleeping Giant Protocol," she said. Everyone in the room nodded. The Sleeping Giant Protocol was created 100 years ago, after the last space war. It was a plan to hide Earth's true military power during peacetimes, but be ready for war at any moment. "Begin the call-up," ordered General Wright. All across Earth and its colonies, millions of people received messages on their phones, computers, and other devices. The messages were simple. "Report for duty. This is not a drill." On the mining colony of Ceres, Frank Cooper was eating dinner with his wife Linda when his phone buzzed. Frank was 35 years old with dark hair and strong hands from years of working with machines. Linda was a doctor at the colony's hospital. Frank read the message and his face went pale. "I have to go," he said. Linda nodded. She knew this might happen one day. All citizens did mandatory military service when they turned 18. After that, they went back to normal jobs but remained in the reserves. Frank had trained as a weapons specialist before becoming a mining engineer. "How bad is it?" Linda asked. "The Triton colony is gone, all of them dead. Some alien empire called the Valkyrians," Frank said as he packed a small bag. "They think it's just the beginning." Within 24 hours, Frank and thousands of other miners on Ceres reported to a hidden base built inside one of the larger craters. Inside, they found military ships that had been disguised as mining vessels. Engineers like Frank had maintained these ships for years during their regular jobs, never telling anyone what they were really working on. Similar scenes happened all across the solar system. On Mars, huge doors opened in the sides of mountains, revealing massive shipyards where battlecruisers waited. On Europa, research stations that studied the moon's ice ocean transformed into weapon platforms. Even on Earth, Ordinary buildings in every major city changed as hidden military equipment was brought out. In just 3 days, humanity went from appearing to have a small defensive fleet to revealing the true size of their military. Thousands of warships, millions of trained soldiers, and weapons that no one outside of Earth's military had ever seen. The Valkyrian fleet moved into the solar system, expecting little resistance. Admiral Drell watched from his command ship as his fleet approached Jupiter. His intelligence reports showed only a few research stations on Jupiter's moons. "Take those stations," Admiral Drell ordered. "They will make good bases for our ships." Officer Krell looked worried as he studied the sensor readings. "Sir, I'm getting strange energy readings from those stations. They don't match our intelligence reports." Before Admiral Drell could respond, the research stations on Jupiter's moons opened up to reveal massive gun ports, energy weapons fired, at the approaching Valkyrian ships. In the first wave of fire, 12 Valkyrian ships exploded. "What is happening?" shouted Admiral Drell. "Those were supposed to be science stations." More surprises came as ships appeared from behind Jupiter's smaller moons. They were human ships, but much bigger and more powerful than anything in the Valkyrian reports. They moved fast, firing weapons that cut through Valkyrian shields like they weren't even there. "Sir, we're losing too many ships," said Officer Krell. "We need to retreat and regroup." Admiral Drell couldn't believe what he was seeing. His first attack force of 40 ships was being destroyed. Only 3 human ships had been damaged, and none destroyed. This wasn't supposed to happen. The humans were supposed to be weak. "Fall back," he finally ordered. "Return to the fleet." As the remaining Valkyrian ships retreated, Admiral Drell received a message from a human commander. The man wore a simple, gray uniform with no fancy decorations. He looked ordinary, which made his words even more frightening. "This is Commander Joe Foster of Earth Fleet. You have one chance to leave our solar system. If you don't, none of you will return home." Admiral Drell cut the transmission. "They're bluffing," he told his officers. "Our main fleet has over 200 ships. We just used the wrong strategy." But doubt had crept into his mind. The intelligence, reports about human military power were completely wrong. What else had they missed? On Earth, General Wright met with his top commanders. Holograms showed the positions of all ships in the solar system. The Valkyrian fleet was regrouping near the orbit of Saturn. "They still outnumber us 2-1, said Admiral Lisa Chen, commander of Earth's Space Forces. She was 50 with streaks of gray in her black hair. "But they don't know about our ships hidden in the Mars shipyards or the Europa defense platforms yet." General Wright nodded. "And they don't know about Project Thunderbolt." The other commanders looked surprised. Project E. Thunderbolt was the most secret weapon Earth had ever built. Most of them had only heard rumors about it. "Is it ready?" asked Admiral Chen. "It's been ready for 50 years, said General Wright. "We just hoped we'd never need to use it." In his private quarters that night, General Wright looked at a picture of his family. His wife Mary, his son Ben, and his daughter Alice. They were at their farm in Montana. He had sent them to an underground shelter, along with millions of other civilian families. He hoped they would be safe there. "We've prepared for this for 100 years, he whispered to himself. Ever since the last time someone thought humans were easy targets. Across the solar system, humanity's true power was waking up. The giant that had slept for a century was now fully awake, and it was angry. On the Valkyrian command ship, Admiral Drell watched recordings of the battle again. "Impossible," he said. "Their technology is far beyond our estimates." Officer Krell looked at the latest intelligence reports. "Sir, we're detecting more ships coming from Mars. Many more. And energy readings from Earth's moon that we can't explain." "How?" asked Admiral Drell. "How did they hide all this?" Neither Valkyrian had an answer, but they were beginning to understand why the ancient rule existed: never cross humanity. Nancy Chen sat in the command chair of her ship, the Defiant. She was the commander of Earth's 6th Fleet. Nancy was 42 years old with short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. Her crew worked quietly around her as they floated in. The darkness of space. All systems on the ship were shut down except for life support. They were playing dead. Status of the Valkyrian patrol? Nancy asked quietly. Her second-in-command, Bill Harris, checked his small handheld device. It was the only piece of technology making any light on the bridge. They're following the path we predicted. 5 minutes until they pass by our position. Nancy nodded. Her fleet of 30 ships was scattered throughout this asteroid field. All of them were powered down, looking like dead ships or just more rocks. The Valkyrians had no idea they were there. This was not how other species fought wars in space. Most thought it was dishonorable to hide. Humans didn't care about honor in war. They cared about winning. All ships prepare to power up on my mark, Nancy said into her communicator. Remember, hit them hard and fast. Don't give them time to call for help. The Valkyrian patrol moved through the asteroid field slowly. They were looking for human ships but saw nothing unusual. The patrol leader, Sub-Commander Vorik, was bored. Nothing. Here, he said to his crew. Just rocks and more rocks. Suddenly his sensor operator shouted, Energy spikes all around us. Before they could react, 30 human ships powered up and opened fire from all directions. The Valkyrian ships had no time to raise shields. 3 exploded immediately. 2 more tried to run but were quickly destroyed. On the Defiant, Nancy watched the brief battle end. Collect their communication buoys before they can send messages, then power down again and move to the next position. This was the 3rd Valkyrian patrol her fleet had destroyed this way. No survivors. No messages sent. The Valkyrians still had no idea what had happened to their missing ships. In another part of the solar system, Steve Johnson worked in a room full of computers on Earth's moon base. Steve was 35 with glasses and fingers that moved incredibly fast on keyboards. He led Earth's cyber warfare division. For weeks, he and his team had been sending fake messages to the Valkyrian fleet. Send message pattern Delta 7, Steve told his team. Make it look like it's coming from their own command ship. The fake message told 20 Valkyrian ships to investigate a false human sighting. In reality, they were being sent into a trap where Admiral Chen's ships waited. They changed their communication codes again, said one of Steve's team members. Steve smiled. Doesn't matter. We'll break the new code in an hour. They can't create codes faster than our computers can break them. When the Valkyrians realized they were being tricked, they would change tactics. Then Steve would change his tactics too. This constant adaptation confused the Valkyrians. They expected enemies to follow predictable patterns of behavior, just as they did. Back on the Valkyrian command ship, Admiral Drell was angry. He had lost contact with 15 patrol groups in the last week. Nearly 100 ships were missing. How are they doing this? He demanded. How can they be everywhere at once? Officer Krell studied the star map. Sir, I think they're changing tactics for each battle. They never attack the same way twice. This made no sense to Admiral Drell. In Valkyrian warfare, successful tactics were repeated until they stopped working. Changing a working strategy was seen as wasteful and chaotic. Send a message to all ships, ordered Admiral Drell. No ship is to travel alone. Minimum group size is 5 ships. But this new order was intercepted by Steve's team. They changed it so half the Valkyrian fleet received instructions to group in 3s instead of 5s. The confusion led to more lost ships as smaller groups were picked off by human attack teams. On Earth, General Wright met with his science team. The leader was Dr. Emma Ward, a brilliant weapons designer. She showed him a hologram of a new weapon. We've adapted the technology from our mining lasers, said Dr. Ward. It can cut through Valkyrian shields in 2 seconds. How soon can we install it on our ships? Asked General Wright. We already have. 50 ships were upgraded yesterday. 50 more will be done tomorrow. This speed shocked even General Wright. That fast? Dr. Ward nodded. Sir, every scientist and engineer on Earth and the colonies is working on the war effort. We're developing new weapons and defenses every day. This was another thing the Valkyrians didn't understand about humans. In peacetime, humans created art, music, and literature. They explored space for knowledge. They built things to last. But when threatened, everything changed. Every part of human society focused on one goal: winning the war. Frank Cooper was now serving on a ship called the Venture. His mining knowledge had been useful in setting traps in asteroid fields. The Venture was hiding behind a small moon, waiting for Valkyrian ships to pass by. "Enemy ships approaching," said the captain. "Ready, Mr. Cooper?" Frank nodded and pressed some buttons on his console. 5 asteroids that his team had fitted with small engines began to move. They looked like normal space rocks drifting naturally, but they were on a direct course for the Valkyrian ships. The Valkyrians noticed the asteroids too late. Their ships were hit hard. As they tried to deal with the damage, the Venture and 2 other human ships attacked. The battle was quick and one-sided. After 3 months of fighting, the Valkyrian fleet had lost over half its ships. They had destroyed only 27 human vessels. Admiral Drell sent an urgent message to the Valkyrian Emperor. "The humans do not fight according to any rules we understand," Admiral Drell reported. "They hide their ships and attack without warning. They use asteroids as weapons. Their ships play dead, then attack when we least expect it. They change strategies daily, sometimes hourly. We cannot predict what they will do next." The Valkyrian Emperor was not pleased. "You told me this would be an easy victory. You said the humans were weak." "The intelligence was wrong," said Admiral Drell. "Their technology is far beyond what we thought, and they fight like no species we have ever faced." "Can we win this war?" asked the Emperor. Admiral Drell hesitated before answering. "I don't know." This was the first time in Valkyrian history that an admiral had admitted such doubt. It showed how completely the humans had shaken their confidence. The Emperor made a decision. "Gather all our remaining ships. We will strike directly at their homeworld. If we can hit Earth hard enough, perhaps they will surrender to save their planet." Admiral Drell had doubts about this plan, but he had no better ideas. The Valkyrians began pulling ships from their other conquered systems, gathering for one massive attack on Earth. They didn't realize this was exactly what the humans wanted them to do. The Valkyrian fleet gathered near the orbit of Neptune. 250 ships formed a tight group. They were the remaining strength of the Valkyrian Empire. Ships had been called from every conquered system. This would be their final push, to win the war. Admiral Drell stood on the bridge of his command ship. He looked tired. The past 4 months of fighting the humans had aged him. His once bright blue skin now looked dull. "All ships report ready," said Officer Krell. "We will reach Earth in 6 days." Admiral Drell nodded. "The humans have fought well, but they cannot stand against our combined fleet. Once we destroy their homeworld, they will surrender." On Earth, the Unified Defense Council watched the Valkyrian fleet on their screens. General Wright stood calmly as he pointed to the enemy ships. "They've gathered everything they have left for one big attack," he said. "Just as we expected." President Olivia Martinez nodded. She was the leader of Earth's United Nations, a strong woman with brown hair and eyes that showed both kindness and strength. "Are we ready for them?" "Yes, Madam President," said General Wright. "Everything is in position. Project Thunderbolt is fully operational." President Martinez looked around the room at the other leaders. "When we created the Sleeping Giant Protocol 100 years ago, we hoped we would never need to use it. We built our weapons in secret and hid our true strength. We wanted peace." "The Valkyrians didn't give us a choice," said General Wright. "They attacked without warning. They killed our people." President Martinez stood up. "Then let's end this. Activate all defense systems and prepare my message." For the next 5 days, the Earth military prepared. Ships moved into position around Earth and its moon. Weapon platforms powered up. And deep under the surface of the moon, thousands of engineers made final checks on Project Thunderbolt. Frank Cooper was now serving on a ship called the Guardian. It was part of Earth's home defense fleet. As they waited for the Valkyrians to arrive, Frank wrote a letter to his wife Linda. "I don't know if we'll see each other again," he wrote. "The final battle is coming. But I want you to know that everything we did, all the secrets we kept, were to protect our home. I hope someday we can live in peace again when the Valkyrian fleet finally entered Earth's solar system. They moved carefully. They expected resistance at every planet and moon. But they met nothing. No human ships attacked them. No hidden weapons fired at them. "This is strange," said Officer Krell. "Where are their ships? Where are their defenses?" Admiral Drell felt uneasy. The humans always had surprises. What were they planning now? As the Valkyrian fleet approached Earth's moon, they finally saw the human fleet. 100 ships waited between the moon and Earth. It was far fewer than the Valkyrians had. "They've gathered their remaining ships to defend their homeworld," said Admiral Drell. "But they are outnumbered. Victory will be ours." Just as the Valkyrian fleet prepared to attack, all their communication screens activated at once. Every screen on every Valkyrian ship showed the same person, President Olivia Martinez. "Valkyrians," she said. Her voice was calm but firm. "I am President Martinez of Earth. You attacked without warning. You killed our people. You threatened our home." Admiral Drell tried to shut off the transmission, but nothing worked. The humans had somehow taken control of all their systems. "President," Martinez continued, "the rule existed for your protection, not ours. Today you will understand why." As her message ended, the Valkyrians noticed something strange happening on Earth's moon. What they had thought were natural craters began to open. The craters were actually huge doors covering launch bays. From these openings came thousands of small objects. "What are those?" asked Admiral Drell. Officer Krell checked the sensors. "They appear to be some kind of small ships. No life signs. They must be drones." The small drones, each one only the size of a car, moved incredibly fast. They surrounded the Valkyrian fleet, forming a three-dimensional net. Before the Valkyrians could react, the drones activated energy fields between them. "Our engines are shutting down," reported Officer Krell. "Some kind of energy field is disrupting our systems." With the Valkyrian fleet trapped and unable to move, the real surprise came next. Near the planet Saturn, huge ring-shaped structures that the Valkyrians had thought were transportation gates began to glow. The Valkyrians had ignored these structures, thinking they were for civilian use. "Energy spike from those ring structures," said Officer Krell, his voice showing fear for the first time. The rings created what looked like holes in space itself. From these holes came hundreds more human ships. These were Earth's reserve fleet, hidden in pocket dimensions created by the gate technology. It was something the Valkyrians had thought was impossible. Admiral Drell watched in shock as the human fleet more than doubled in size. The ships that came through the gates were larger and looked more powerful than any human ships they had seen before. "They were hiding their best ships in another dimension," Admiral Drell said quietly. "All this time, we weren't fighting there, full strength." The human ships surrounded the trapped Valkyrian fleet. From the Earth ships came a single message: "Surrender or be destroyed." Admiral Drell knew it was over. The humans had outthought them at every turn. "Send our surrender," he ordered. "Tell them we accept whatever terms they offer." The battle that the Valkyrians had hoped would win them the war ended without a single shot being fired. The entire Valkyrian fleet was captured intact. On the Guardian, Frank Cooper watched as human ships began boarding the Valkyrian vessels. "I still can't believe Project Thunderbolt worked so well," he said to his captain. "The drone net was only part of it," said the captain. "The dimension gates were the real surprise. We've had that technology for 60 years but kept it secret." Earth President Martinez met again with the Defense Council. "The Valkyrian fleet has surrendered," reported General Wright. "Admiral Drell is being brought to Earth for formal surrender talks." "And the Valkyrian Empire?" asked President Martinez. "Without their fleet, they have no way to hold their conquered worlds. Reports say that rebellions have already started on 3 of their planets." President Martinez nodded. "Send a message to the Valkyrian Emperor. Tell him his forces in our territory have been eliminated. He has 24 hours to recall all military vessels from the worlds they've conquered and return to their original borders. If he fails to comply, we will take further action." The message was sent. The Valkyrian Emperor, seeing what had happened to his fleet, knew he had no choice but to agree. On the Valkyrian homeworld, the Emperor addressed his advisors. "How did we misjudge them so badly?" he asked. How did they hide their true power from us? No one had an answer. But they all remembered the ancient rule that they had ignored: never cross humanity. The Valkyrian Emperor sat on his throne. His face showed no emotion as Admiral Drell knelt before him. The Admiral had been returned to the Valkyrian homeworld as part of the peace agreement. The room was filled with nobles and military leaders. No one spoke. They were waiting for the Emperor's judgment. "You failed," said the Emperor finally. His voice was cold. "You ignored the ancient warnings. You started a war we could not win, and now we have lost everything." Admiral Drell kept his head down. "The humans were not what we thought, my Emperor. Their technology, their way of fighting, we could not have known." "But you should have known," said the Emperor. "The warnings in the ancient texts were clear. Now we understand why those warnings existed." The peace terms from Earth had arrived the day before. They were surprisingly fair. The Valkyrians would leave all conquered territories. They would reduce their military to defensive forces only. And they would accept observers from other races, including humans, to make sure they followed these rules. The Emperor had accepted immediately. He knew the humans could have destroyed the Valkyrian homeworld if they wanted to, but they didn't. This mercy surprised him. "There is one more term," said the Emperor. "We must update the ancient warning about humanity in the Galactic archives." President Martinez sent the exact words we must add. On Earth, President Martinez met with the Unified Defense Council for the last time. The war was over. It had lasted less than 6 months. Earth had lost 42 ships and about 800 people. The Valkyrians had lost their entire fleet and their empire. "The Valkyrian Emperor has accepted our terms," said President Martinez. "Their ships are leaving all conquered territories. The people they enslaved are free again." General Wright nodded. "And Project Thunderbolt?" "The drone net and dimension gates will remain our secret," said President Martinez. "We will continue the Sleeping Giant protocol. Our regular fleet will patrol our space. The rest of our ships will return to hiding." Frank Cooper was going home. After the surrender of the Valkyrian fleet, most of the reserve forces were released from duty. Frank sat on a transport ship heading back to Ceres. He would see his wife Linda soon. He thought about how quickly life was returning to normal. The mining ships were already back at work. The research stations were studying space again instead of fighting wars. This was the human way. In peace, they built and created. In war, they fought with everything they had. And when the war ended, they went back to peace as quickly as possible. On the Galactic Council station, Elder Zorn watched as a Valkyrian official added new text to the ancient archives. The warning about humanity now had a new section. It was written by President Martinez herself. "Humanity does not seek conflict, but they are always ready for it. They hide their true strength. They do not show their best weapons or ships. What you see of their military is only a small part of what they really have. They do not keep large armies in peacetime, but they can call up millions of soldiers very quickly. Their technology grows much faster during war than peace. They do not fight for honor. They fight to win. Every race that has fought humans in the past has been destroyed. This warning exists because those races cannot warn you themselves. The humans may forgive you once. They will not forgive twice." Elder Zorn nodded as he read the new warning. "Perhaps now others will listen," he said to the Valkyrian official. "The humans do not want war, but they are better at it than any race in the galaxy." The Valkyrian looked sad. "We learned this truth too late." In the months that followed, word spread throughout the galaxy about what had happened to the Valkyrian Empire. Other races that had been thinking about testing Earth's defenses quickly changed their plans. The ancient rule was now understood by all: never cross humanity. On Mars, a historian named Diane Nelson gained special permission to study Earth's military archives. She discovered that humans had been preparing for space war since their first contact with aliens 300 years ago. While they presented themselves as peaceful explorers and traders, they had been building secret weapons and ships the whole time. "We hoped we would never need to use them," explained General Wright in an interview with Diane. But humanity learned a hard lesson long ago. Peace lasts longer when others know you are strong enough to defend it. Diane's research revealed something else interesting. Humans were not naturally warlike. They preferred peace. Most humans didn't even think about the hidden ships and weapons that protected them. They lived their lives, raised their families, and explored the stars, never knowing how close they had come to war many times before. When asked why humanity kept its strength secret, President Martinez had a simple answer. People fear what they don't understand. If other races saw our full military power, they might think we planned to attack them. By hiding our strength, we appeared less threatening. We wanted peaceful relations with all races. 6 months after the war ended, Frank and Linda Cooper sat on their porch on Ceres Colony. They watched the stars through the colony's clear dome. Linda rested her hand on her growing belly. They were going to have a baby. "Do you think there will be another war?" Linda asked. Frank shook his head. "I don't think so. Not for a long time. The galaxy understands us better now." "Will you tell our child about the war?" Linda asked. "Someday," said Frank. "But I'll also tell them about what happened after, how we went back to building and exploring. That's the real story of humanity. We don't want to fight, but we'll always be ready if we need to." Across the galaxy, other races studied humanity with new respect. They saw a species that created beautiful art, music, and literature. A species that explored space out of curiosity. A species that treated other races with fairness and respect. But they also remembered what happened to those who ignored the ancient rule. The rule that once again stood clear in the galactic archives: never cross humanity. They broke it once. They would not break it again.